Yo, what up, YouTube? This your boy TJ. You in the back office with TJ. I was going over a little something with my homeboy. He sent me this link, just letting us know, hey man, this game is bigger than us when it comes down to logistics. You know, you got airplanes, you got ships, you got rail yards, you got owner operators in their trucks, you got mail hoppers, you know, a lot of different things. And I read this link that just put some light on some of the stuff I've been thinking and stuff that I look at because I look at the news like every day. And I just want to give y'all insight. TRB talked about this earlier this week. Shout out to him. Shout out to LaShawn Parks, Low. I watch him too. Golden Child, I watch him. The Wright brother, I watch him. Shout out to him too. And some of them just give me a lot of insight on, you know, I started this game last year. So it's only my second season. I'm learning a lot. But this right here shed light on some of the things that I needed to, I guess, inform you guys on, because a lot of us look at things saying, damn, what's wrong with the race? So we all have our own prediction of what we think and what's going on. But this right here is an article that I read, and it's called Spotlight on the Ocean Shipping in the Trans-Pacific Eastbound Lanes. In a typical year, shipping by air and ocean follows a fairly predictable pattern of peaks and slow times. However, this year is different as companies try to get ahead of the new tariff implications in the East Pacific eastbounds. Implication in the Trans-Pacific eastbounds lanes. Many shippers in these lanes have ramped up their shipping early, while others may choose to pay higher spot market rates in their preferred shipping times and waiting to see what happens next. The current situation in the Trans-Pacific eastbound lanes is like this. May the 1st, new service contracts goes in this lane goes in effect of this year. We're talking about this year, 2018. August through September, peak season volume ramp up. Ocean rates increase at this time. August through December, ocean carriers announce their winter program adjustment to accounts for what is normally a slower time of the year. January or February, volume ramps up for businesses closed in China. Businesses closed in China for the New Year's as spot market rates spike. February through March, after the holidays, there are slower volume during the slack season. Space opens up and spot market rates deteriorate. All right. So let me just stop right there for a little minute before I go on. So basically it's like this. In trucking, we have seasons. And you guys know pretty much when the ships and planes bring whatever to the ports or to the airports or rail carts or whatever the case may be, they got to be shipped to locations. So when they're in their season and shipping goods here, which I don't know how long it normally takes, but whenever they ship goods here, then our season pretty much follow along that course, because once it make it to the warehouse or the dock or wherever it got to go to be transported from point A to point B, our season kick in to make sure it get to the consumer warehouses so they can start doing whatever they do with their logistics to put it in stores or to take it to other warehouses and distributions. Okay, so pretty much for us, January is pretty solid for us this year in 2017, all the way through some of February, which was pretty good. Then after that, it started to die down. Then you guys know we're getting ready for produce season. Produce season picks up, the rates go back up, etc., like that. So that's why you're looking at your January, February, and then your February through March. It says after holiday season is a little slower and it slacks down. That goes for us too. If they're not shipping anything, we have nothing to look forward to bringing to the United States. Trucks don't run on water. You feel me? All right. Then you have the peak season between August and September. Our peak season usually lasts through somewhat of August. It might take a little slump after Labor Day, but it picks back up through, you know, for the holiday season, October through December. This year right here is a little different because of the weather we had last year kind of affected some of it. And also with what I'm going to read you guys now and what's going on. This year, the United States proposed to, they proposed the new tariff tax on goods coming from China in a nutshell. They did a tariff for $34 billion of product went into effect on July 6th of this year. They had another tariff, $16 billion of China products that went into effect on August the 23rd of this year. They have $200 billion in China goods that are 10% duty effective on at least 3 products that went into effect on September 24th of this year. And then list 3 products that increased to 25% by January 1st of 2019. All right. Now we have about what, a month and a half before the new year hit, and now you're talking about another increase on the turf tax at 25%. On Labor Day weekend, the president said that we're working on a list of 4 tariffs on 264 billion of imports. And if you guys don't know, China is really major on the United States, bro. Like, you know, connect the dots. A lot of the stuff you buy is made in China. So think about it. Your biggest consumer or your biggest person that import things to the United States, they don't want to pay these high taxes just to get their goods to the United States. You feel me? So we end up paying more for American goods or other country goods. And like I said, it's a pro and a con to everything. Some it create jobs for us. Some it take away jobs. You know, you can't have a good without a bad, and vice versa. For ocean shippers in the Trans-Pacific eastbound, peak season started early this year. Shippers front-loaded their shipments in June and July to avoid new duties. U.S. import volumes through August increased to 4.8% compared to 2017. As volume increased, carriers removed 6.7% of their capacity on the West Coast and 1.5% of the capacity on the East Coast. The result was tight space and higher rates on the spot market. So earlier this year, when produce season kicked in, everything was flowing smooth. We didn't see no hiccups when it came down to moving freight for trucks. I mean, maybe on the produce side, but as far as everything else, it was flowing smoothly, in my opinion, from what I've been looking at, because I didn't do a lot of produce this year like I did last year. All right, so basically, these people are trying to move all this stuff before the turf tax kick in. And once the turf tax kick in, then, you know, it's just going to change the rate. It's like you paying a higher mortgage or a higher truck note or something once that rate kick in like a balloon or something. As news emerged on a list of 3 tariffs would increase to 25% on January 1st, 2019, companies began to move up shipping deadlines to avoid these tariffs as well. Many want their suppliers to ship before the deadline so they can avoid as much of the additional tariff as possible. What to expect next if you ship in this lane? In a typical year, the peak seasons would be followed by one of the lowest shipping volumes and rates. This year, slack season may be different. Space is already in short supply and likely to remain tight. Currently, East Coast loops are running near full capacity and West Coast loops are expected to run through the middle of November and possibly into December. Customers have asked us if there may be enough surplus inventory to move so that Chinese New Year would have less of an impact on shipping than previous years, in spite of the tariffs. We believe that even with a strong October-November season, the higher inventory levels, the Chinese New Year will continue to be strong. Even if the demand starts to dip, the ocean carriers will look to increase the amount of blank sailing in order to preserve their profits. For example, carriers announced blank sailing for the start of October to keep space demands high and rate levels evaluated, while carriers will bring in extra loaders to clear some of the backlogs. New booking continues to surge. If you ship in this lane, you will need the way what is best, ramping up your shipping early, paying higher spot market rates during the preferred shipping times, or holding out until the Chinese New Year to see if anything changes by then, turf-wise. So, once again, like I said, the shipping game is affecting the trucking game because we need them to bring in these goods for us to move. All right. Long-term consideration. Some shippers are also thinking long-term about changing suppliers from China to countries where tariffs don't apply. It will take time to find new suppliers who can meet product specifications and provide the volume a shipper might need, and some materials can only be sourced from China. Here we go again. Every country has a region of what they can produce as far as natural materials or raw materials, as you guys may call it. China, look how big China is. They have, like it just said, they have materials only can be sourced from China. In addition, some companies I have spoken with are considering a shift in manufacturing locations to avoid tariffs. These people are taking their jobs and moving from one country to another or building new locations or infrastructures to another country just to avoid these taxes. So it's basically like this, and me and my partner talked about it. You have a company that's located in your city that might employ 5,000, 10,000 people. Your city don't want to play ball and want to keep hitting you extra taxes. What do? You pack up and move to another city. Now that job is out of 5 to 10,000 employees, and a new city gained its 5 to 10,000 employees or more, depending on how big you make it. It's been happening across the country. It's been happening across the world. Remember the time when Microsoft wanted to move out of the United States because of the tax rate they had to pay. Google was going to move. A lot of companies was going overseas. Same thing applies, man. So a few have already started importing from Thailand, Vietnamese, and India instead of China. This type of move is not an option for everyone. It can take years to bring new manufacturer facilities online, and those locations might have the right infrastructure to support shipping activities. In any case, many manufacturing locations may not eliminate all tariffs. Even if you ship from Shanghai, if the material used in manufacturers were made from China, the tariffs still apply. So if you got a resource coming from China and you need that resource to make whatever you do because you think you avoid it, you still gonna get hit with the tariff tax, all because it got China name on it. Other suppliers will continue to operate the way they always have, except the tariffs as the new norm. Overall, shippers and consignees will need to keep a close eye on every single dollar, from ocean freight costs to dryage, to chassis, to free time and move. If tariffs continue, companies will likely need to increase their overall cost of goods. Still, at the end of the day, the United States and China could still come back to the bargaining table to remove some of the tariffs eventually. All right. So before I get to my final thoughts, it's like this. If they're willing to increase their goods to be shipped from point A to B because of the taxes, the people are paying higher rates for certain goods than we would normally pay because of this. I don't know what the balance is. It could be, hey, we bring in more money. But in my background, from what I learned is just because you bring in more money doesn't change the quality of the product. You might still get 100 customers that used to pay, and we see this every year when taxes go up. You might get 100 customers that paid $100 just to move something every year. And now taxes went up. They're willing to pay $110 to move the same thing as they did last year because of taxes. That don't mean you ain't created customers. You kept the same customers. Ain't nothing changed. You just increase it. You just increased the wages to go with the inflation of the country. Think about it, man. The cost of living has always been higher than what some of us is making anyway. So if they did pay us higher wages to move this commodity, but they keep increasing the rate of living, the cost of living, we ain't doing nothing but trying to play catch up, baby. That's all we've been doing is playing catch up. But anywho, the final thoughts on this piece was, until that day comes, all of us need to continue to adapt to the new reality. The most important thing you can do now is understand the forecast volume and speak to your provider to ensure that you have the necessary allocations. Your provider can help you move away from the standard fixed modules and put supply chains at risk, marketing adjustments, whatever like that. All right. So at the end of the day, man, it's like this. These people are going through things because of what Trump administration has created. Everybody's going to feel the effect from this. This is a global effect. You have the wealthiest country is the United States. We consume a lot of products from a lot of people. We at war with the biggest resource it is China. So my thing is like this, and this is my opinion. A lot of us voted Trump into office. And I'm not saying me myself. I'm just speaking in general. A lot of us voted Trump in office thinking that he was going to change the trucking industry and look out for us. What do y'all think now? Because if you drive trucks you affected by this decision, good or bad. He might create more jobs. He might cut the deficit down. But it's going to be a winner and it's going to be a loser on either side of the coin. It's going to be a winner and it's going to be a loser no matter how you look at it. You might want higher wages for the trucking industry. Hey, this might be the wage you're going to get your higher wages. But at what cost? At what cost? You know, I sit back and I analyze and I think about this a lot, man. Like, sometimes there's no right or wrong in politics from certain point of views because one is going to affect the other. You know, hey, I want to pass a gun law, but I got to cut back healthcare on the same bill. Okay. He want to lower the United States deficit, you know, by putting tariffs and trying to get more money from these people to import their goods to sell it to the U.S. But we spending a lot of money on border walls to keep, you know, immigrants out of the country. You know, where's the money for the infrastructure of the trucking business? If we're taxing them to bring their goods into the country, but we're spending money on border walls, what does that have to do with the trucking industry? If you're going to make them pay more money to bring their goods into the country, make sure that it's still enough so that it won't affect the amount of work that flows through the country, because the trucking industry is the backbone of the country as far as moving goods from point A to B through all these different mom and pop stores, Walmarts, Target, distribution centers, etc. Trains only can go so far. They can't leave off the tracks. Airplanes got to land at airports and landing strips. Ships got to go to ports. So you got to have a ground plan, and that becomes us. We're affected by this. So at the end of the day, when we say, hey, broker, look, I can't run it for this. The broker's going to say, man, look, this is all we got. We've been hearing this for months. This is all we got. The customer ain't willing to pay. If the customer ain't willing to pay, let's go back to where it's all starting at. It's starting with our commander-in-chief in the White House. He made a decision. We're looking at the effects from it. You know, we may not have seen it when he first said it, but we're looking at the effects from it now. Now, it was gravy when he made it, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and everybody started shipping, and we was getting that money. But now that it has settled in and became a reality, what are we going to do now? We don't like it. Cause and effects take time. Something got to happen, and then sometimes we have to react to it. It depends on when we react to it. Can we react to it before it happens to be proactive? Can we wait till it happens to see what's going to really happen? Some shippers said, hey, man, we're going to wait. Some people said, no, we're going to get ahead of the curve. So whether it happened or not, we're going to be prepared. We can't ship what they don't give us. We can't force them to give us rates that they don't want to pay. So like this thing said, until the day comes, all of us need to continue to adapt to the new reality. And this is the new reality. Can things change? Of course it can. They said it can. They can always go to the table and renegotiate something. They did it with Canada. They did it with Mexico. They took some of these tariffs off the table to make it saying, hey, you're our neighbor. We're not going to really do y'all like this. But we need to talk about consideration of doing something so we can help cut back on something. Hey, man, this your boy TJ. You know, I'm just giving y'all my thoughts and opinions about what I read. And it's sad for trucking because if the rates don't go up, some of us can't survive, whether it's the season or not. My opinion is, even when the season really do kick in, we've been kicked for so long, we trying to get back what we already lost. And then we're going to be back until, you know, the off-peak, until whenever the season pick up again to see what's going to happen. But until then, man, do what you got to do, fam.